welcome back to the Last Word Podcast. As always, my name is Jay.
And I'm Rabbit.
And thank you everyone, for listening. Thank you for being here with us today. Before we get into any of it, just another quick reminder. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us, do all those wonderful things. We really appreciate it. We see the love every time, and it really means a lot. So thank you for all the support always. Thank you. Of course, any questions, comments, concerns, business stuff, lastwordapparel@gmail.com. So
let's get into it. This episode
right.
is gonna be a little...
Right, just to preface
it. Is there a trigger warning? Is that still a thing?
I don't know if it's a... maybe. Like...
It might be.
We're going to be talking about death. It's going to get real existential up in here.
Oh, God.
So just so you guys know, and I don't know, because of the subject, I don't know how long this will be exactly. It may be tough. But just hang on for the ride. But before we even get into that, how's your week been?
It's been kind of weird. There's been a few things just going on in our life and our personal life that we've had to deal with.
Yeah.
Some work stuff, some personal things, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, the way you and I describe it is, I have a feeling. What is that exactly? What do you think? Because it's like, sometimes I can write it off as I'm just anxious for something, or, there's a direct reason why I feel this way. But sometimes there's just this weird, like, I don't want to say foreboding thing. Like, it's not like necessarily a cloud hanging over me.
Yeah. But
I feel like it, and it's weird to explain, but it feels like I'm picking up on something somewhere. Yeah. And it feels like there's things, like gears turning, things falling into place behind the scenes. I just can't see it, but
yeah,
moods are shifting. You know what I mean?
So you and I have always believed, or I have always believed in, I don't want to get too crazy out here. Like, in this world, I'm not psychic. I can't see the future. I can't tell you who you're going to fall in love with, or if you're going to get a lot of money, or what's going to make you rich. I can't do anything like that. But because... I believe in what I believe, like, Wicca and my Native American beliefs and just general spirituality. I kind of feel like there's an energy in the world. I feel like that ties everyone together. I feel like that ties events that happen. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's what ties, people together, like, like, like you and me and me and other people, our friends and our family. And I believe that this energy... some people can pick up on it, some people can't. Like, the possibility that there might be ghosts and spirits, and that's why some people can see them. Or, I think a long, long time ago, back when you and I were first starting the podcast, we talked with Joseph when he was on, about dreams. Right. And, how dreams were kind of almost foreseeing something else. Right. So you and I have always kind of believed that, regardless of religious beliefs or religion in general, that there's something else out there. Mm-hmm. Now, I like I said, I like to tie it back to more energy than anything. Right. Because that's what runs the world. I remember one time you told me, because I was freaking out, we'll get into this more a little bit later, about dying, what's going to happen. And you were telling me, it's like, well, your energy. Energy, can't be destroyed. Right. It's going to go on. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the only thing, like, that whole night that calmed me down. Mm-hmm. So it's like we kind of believe more in an energy thing.
It sounds anything. Probably stupid, if that, makes sense at all. But I don't know. It just feels like there's certain times where you can just, pick up on something. And there was a lot of that this week. Just this weird, behind the scenes kind of feeling.
Well, yeah, for me, that feeling is kind of like, it can kind of go one of two ways usually. Either, I'll be really content, I'll feel really good, or there'll be something that we're waiting for, something we're waiting on, or waiting to get an answer, whatever, and we'll just feel really good.
Yeah.
it'll feel like a very calming presence.
Mm-hmm.
And then, good things usually happen or will continue to happen. However you want to, categorize them, blessings, however. But then, like, not necessarily when terrible things or tragedies, but even when just lesser things are happening, and sometimes, yes, when bad things are happening, I get this weird, uneasy, anxious, like restless, can't sit still,
Mm-hmm.
don't want to sit still, just this uncomfortable feeling. And sometimes, it can lead to like thinking about
like, I got a weird feeling, and then later that day something happens.
Something bad happened, or we find out something bad is happening.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what it feels like. Yeah. That's what I get when you talk about, like, oh, I feel something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm feeling something right now.
Right. So
and that's how it feels for me.
There's a lot of that this week.
Off and on.
And it made the week kind of weird. On top of just regular, normal life bullshit. So it was an interesting week.
Yeah. It was hard.
It was. It wasn't... Yeah, it was... It's weird because it's not a bad week. It wasn't a bad week, but it wasn't. There's just those things, that make a difference and that affect things in certain ways. Which I guess leads us into the whole topic today anyway. I mean, we'll talk briefly on what brought up the subject, because it kind of came from somewhere. And for a lot of people right now, it's in their radar whether they care about it or not. I mean, I'll say it once, just, the death of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And that's really, really what started it. And I think there's a few different mindsets people have, a few different camps that people are subscribing to in this whole thing. It's like people either genuinely cared for him, like were a fan of him. You know what I mean? They followed what he did and who he was, athlete, all that.
Yeah.
And that's why they're hurt by this. There's some people who weren't, and probably will say they are. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, oh, I always liked basketball, or I knew about Kobe Bryant when this and this happened, but they didn't care. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't care. And I think a good majority of people, the other set of people, is like people that are bothered by this, but not because of like who it was, but just because of how, and like the fact that like no one is immune to death. Yeah. Essentially. And I think that's also bothering a lot of people. That whole just realization when it's right in your face that it's here and it can happen no matter what. Yeah. And I feel like that's maybe more where we are, obviously. Yeah. Because I'll say personally, like, I don't care about Kobe Bryant. You know what I mean? I don't care about basketball. I never watch basketball. I don't care. You know what I mean?
No, neither one of us are. I'm not really a big sports fan. Just I'm not into sports. Mm-hmm. That's not something that I consider a hobby or something I enjoy. You and your dad are a little. Well, your dad is really into football, but you're more into football, mm-hmm. and even then, it's still not a big hobby for you. It's not a thing,
right?
But yeah, neither one of us are big sports fans.
So I won't claim to be
we're not
a Kobe Bryant fan. I won't claim to be a basketball fan. And I think just for us, the big thing that it comes from is like, oh, this sucks that someone died, period. Whoever it is, that a human being lost their life, that sucks. But then, the whole magnitude of it, like how it happened, is crazy.
Oh my God. I saw it first. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember when, and I was telling you about it. Mm-hmm. And then we just, of course, like it just started coming out.
Yeah, and then it's been like that since, it's just been pouring out from everywhere. But I think a big part of it is that people are having trouble with the realization that, like, oh, this shit happens. And it doesn't matter who you are. Yeah. You almost feel like you can be immune to it, almost. And if you reach a certain place in your life, you're immune to it. But it's like, no, this can happen, and freak accidents can happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's life. Death is a part of life. So I mean, let's talk about death for a second. And what's your relationship with death?
Well,
how are
I
you
mean,
doing with
losing
that?
my grandpa last year was probably really the first like really like hard death of a family member or someone I know. No, the second, because actually I've never really talked about the first one, and I think that there's a reason for it. But no, my relationship with death used to be, and still kind of is, because I still have a little ways to go with it, but it was the scariest, like freakiest, like weirdest thought in my mind that every creature, human, dogs, animals, plants, it's all gonna die.
Right.
All of it. And to think about that, and to think about the fact that that's gonna be me someday, no matter how it happens, is even harder. And I remember a while ago, and this is years ago, I had a panic attack once. Well, I've had a panic attack more than once about this.
But specifically for this.
But one of the most significant ones
right.
is you and I, we were playing Diablo, and we were actually playing Diablo with the guys.
Yeah.
And for a second, because we were in like a rift, like a hell rift, I guess. And for some reason, my brain just started going down this like weird line that like, well, I know this is a video game, but this is hell. But what if hell is really like this? What if hell exists? What if I go to what if I die? Right. What's going to happen when I die? And for some reason, all in a row, like all just like, just a perfect sequence of events, I freaked out. For a minute, I was like, I wasn't there. Like, if you've ever had a panic attack so bad that, like, you go blank for a second, like... It was scary. It was scary. And I was still playing, and I didn't want to freak anyone out or freak you out, so I just kept playing. I eventually calmed down. I got better. You and I got off, and then I started telling you everything.
Yeah.
But that was my relationship with death, and that's where it wasn't the beginning, but it was something that made me, like, look at it and, like, I don't know, like, I think I need to explore this more. I think I need to talk about this more.
Right.
And then, of course, it wouldn't be years later until my grandpa would pass away.
Right.
That I would need to do something with that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's my relationship with it.
So, is that still your relationship with it now? Is it this existential dread and fear and panic?
I mean, not so much anymore. I'm a little more at peace with it. Like I said, I still have a little bit longer to go with it to get to a point where it's not as bad. Now, I had a friend pass away when I was in high school. And I don't bring it up a lot. I don't talk about it. And, I didn't talk about it a lot back then either, because she wasn't necessarily my friend.
You knew her, but you didn't.
Well, yeah, we never really hung out outside of school. Right. I didn't...
There's people that knew her better.
Exactly.
Right. And
I didn't want to put myself in the position of like, oh yeah, I was her friend. And...
Like so many people do in that situation, especially when someone dies. Like, if it's a celebrity, they're like, oh, I always was a fan, or like, I remember the first time, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, if it's someone close, like, or especially in school, so there'll always be people like, I was the best friends with him. And it's like, no, you weren't.
Yeah, you weren't. And, I mean, she had a boyfriend at the time, too, which is also kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, it's like, you just lost, like, your high school girlfriend like that. I couldn't.
That's going to leave a mark.
Yeah, I couldn't put myself in the middle of that group who...
Right.
But it was also her mom, I think, and her younger brother who passed away, too.
Right.
They're in a car accident. And I don't exactly remember the details. This is so long ago. But they're just in a really bad car accident in a back road of Wisconsin. They're supposed to stop at a stop sign, but most people don't, especially in the evening hours, because usually you can see headlights before, and they didn't. But the driver that came before also was thinking the exact same thing, and he didn't stop. Right. Most likely, we don't know what they're thinking. The other driver, he survived. He lived. I think he still. Like not recovering, but he still has his injuries, or he's still dealing with them. Like, he was hurt badly.
Right.
Like, very bad. And of course, everyone in my friend's car died.
Right.
Everybody. So I was living with my dad when it happened, and I wasn't in school anymore. Like, I had basically dropped out of school at this point. But I knew her. And my one of my friends had actually called me about it because, I mean, they would know I didn't have access to the internet out there. Like, my dad, of course, he lives in the middle of nowhere where I grew up. And so she was the one who called me to tell me about it. And I don't know, like, it was weird because I wanted to bring up all those things that, like, I knew her. She had a little bit, like, for the time that I knew her, she had a significant impact on my life. But I couldn't. So that's how I found out, like, you know, she called me, she told me that this happened, like, her whole family is in a car accident, and, like, it was crazy. And, you know, Candace and her friends, like, I was invited to the funeral from them, like, and it's kind of messed up because, like, you were just talking about, the whole school is invited.
Yeah.
The whole school, they bust kids out.
Yeah.
In fact, like, basically, if you, and they made it this way, that either you go to the funeral.
Or you go to school.
Yeah. So, almost everyone went to the funeral.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, it was weird. It was so weird. It was the weirdest thing. So, her impact in my life was so small and so kind of insignificant at the time, but it's not now. The same group of friends, like one of the same friends that had called me to tell me that she had died, had also decided, like, months and months before, maybe even like the year before, to, what's the word, ostracize me?
Yep, that's a word.
Outcast me?
Yeah.
Like,
Ostracize.
completely, like, I don't know, like, I had messed up, like, apparently, like, quote, in terms.
Messed up. In teenage terms.
In teenage girls' terms, I had messed up.
Which doesn't mean shit.
Right,
yeah.
and I dated the wrong person, or I don't fucking know, it was drama.
You didn't wear pink on Friday or
exactly,
whatever.
Exactly. It was something, well, we never wore pink, but.
Right.
We were still goth back in those days. Emo? We might have worn pink. We might have worn pink at some point, but. No, and yeah, like, I had messed up like that, so the whole group cast me out. I didn't have anyone to sit with in you know, my classes. I didn't have anyone to sit with at lunch. I was just completely, like, outcasted for doing something I don't even remember now.
Well, yeah, it wasn't important,
Yeah.
obviously.
No one would talk to me. None of my friends would talk to me. I had no one.
Right.
They turned every single person against me. And this friend was new. Her friend. She came in, and she had no idea, and she didn't care. She was one of those kind of people. She didn't care. And I remember she, like, came in and just asked me to sit with her. I was just like, oh my god, like, this person's nice. She's being nice to me.
Yeah.
And then she saw me in the hallway. She's like, hey, Rabbit, like, come here. I'm like, okay, hi. And these are a different group of people. Like, she hung out with a different group of people than the people that I was friends with. So they kind of didn't mind. So I had a group to stand with, you know, in the break times. And I had people to sit with at lunch. And it only happened a few times. And I remember just a couple of times, maybe 3 at most, sitting with her and talking with her. And we had, like, choir or, like, music class or something. I think it was choir. And we just sat there and talked, you know, and she was just nice to me. She showed me the little bit of kindness, and then, of course, like, all the other stuff happened where I had to go move with my dad and live with him, live in the middle of nowhere. Eventually, my friends and I made up and all that stuff, but
that little moment right there where she wasn't part of the shunning and the bad and all that bullshit. She spoke to you like a human being, like it should have been. Yeah, she's a friend.
Yeah, definitely. So, I went to the funeral. And there was a whole another bunch of drama with my family, like my grandma.
But that's not the point.
No, my grandma took me, and I remember going up to see her, you know, of course, as everyone had, and I sat with my friends, you know, and I remember just feeling so weird because she was there. I think it was also maybe her mom or her little brother's funeral too, or maybe they had done them all at once. And I just remember seeing her and, like, not being able to move. And then I think I cried, but I don't remember. But the biggest thing I remember is, getting so close and not being able to move, and my friends eventually having to come and physically move me away because it was so weird to think about. It was so weird. And, of course, everyone was freaking out. Everyone was crying, and all of our friends and the people that knew her better, of course. And, of course, people were leaving her things and giving her things. And, they had drawn pictures for her, left her jewelry and all this kind of stuff. And they're allowing us to write on her casket, too. And I don't remember what I wrote. I do remember that I wrote on it, and I signed it Rabbit, because that's what she knew me as. It was just such a weird
It's a pretty
weird
interesting
time.
experience to have, especially being so young.
Yeah.
So how did that make you feel about death? I mean, did you think about it much?
Yeah, at the time, I mean, no, I didn't think much of it, but it was so weird. And I almost felt like I couldn't. Even now, it feels weird to talk about. It kind of feels like I'm making it up, but that shit happened.
Yeah.
And I think back then, too, it didn't help that just, the year before, 6 months before, all of the people that were friends with, or gonna be friends with her, or that knew her better, were some of the people that were casting me out.
Right.
So it's like that also made it feel weird to talk about. And, had I acknowledged it then, maybe it would have been harder, but, I remember going back to my dad's, and my dad used to have these huge boulders sitting in the, like, off to the side of his yard. There are these rocks that they pulled out when they were digging the basement, and they had nowhere else to put them, so they just put them in the front yard, which is weird. And so I remember just sitting on a rock, and I was just sitting there kind of thinking about everything, and, it was really hard to deal with. It was really hard to think about, and she...
Yeah.
It was hard. I wish I would have gotten to talk about it more when I was younger, when it happened, because obviously it was really significant, and it didn't help my view on death, because even then, like, her whole family, and I think even when the stories were coming out and you read in the newspaper, her family had also lost another child before that, like in a house fire.
That's terrible.
So almost the entire family had passed away at that point.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
So the panic and fear and all that you mentioned with that while you were playing video games, where did that come from, do you think? Was it just the not knowing?
Yeah.
Like sitting there thinking about it and then being like, oh shit, what? Like, what is this real? Is that real? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what gets me the most, and of course what gets most people, I would say, like the majority of people, is not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's always the question.
Yeah, it's like,
right.
Does it just go blank?
And who knows?
Is there, is there heaven, hell? Is there nothing? Is there everything? Do we just wake up in a new body?
Right.
Or does our conscious not reach until we're like 6 years old when it did our life before? So is there just a period of time we won't remember, like when we were babies? So that's what gets me, and that's what used to give me the bad panic attacks, is thinking about that, the unknown.
Right.
The question everyone wants answers to, but it's not going to be there until you're dead.
Yeah.
So I think that's what used to get me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I used to think about.
And now, why do you feel like you're better with it?
Well, I think, like I said, I'm talking about it more.
Right.
I've experienced it firsthand. And, getting to see my grandpa, because I didn't get to talk to him or see him before he died. I think I talked to him 3 days before. But getting to see him and, knowing that this is a close family member, it was still hard and it was still weird. And there's that old stereotype, like, oh, the goth girl is so comfortable at death. In that moment, it was kind of true, because there was never more peace about death and dying than when I saw my grandpa.
Yeah.
And it helped, and still today it helps, to look and see that, his body, his hands and everything like that, it's just a vessel. It's not the human soul. It's not our conscience. There's nothing in there. It's not a caterpillar. It's a cocoon. It's
all those things. It's a machine. Anything you can think of.
And I think that
a meat puppet.
Yeah. Well, ew.
Yeah. Well,
that was gross.
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, that really kind of helped things, and to talk about it. Because that's what got me to start talking about it, of course. Because now I had, I do have two stories, like, or not two stories, but I do have two incidences that I can talk about, two things that happened with death that I really, have a lot to say about.
Mm-hmm.
And I should talk about the first one more too, but I was finally able to talk about it, and I was finally able to talk about it with my therapist, with you, to Kenneth at the time, and all of that stuff, and it finally got me to a point where there was some acceptance in it, and there's some peace with it.
Yeah, I think obviously death is a subject that is pretty taboo, for conversation. No one wants to talk about it at all.
Oh God, no.
And no one wants to acknowledge it. No one wants to acknowledge the fact that you will someday will cease to exist, and that can happen really any time.
Right.
And no one wants to talk about that, but you have to talk about these things. It's the only way you're going to ever feel okay about them. Mortality is real.
Well, and that's part of it. It's like, it's gonna happen to everybody.
It's gonna happen to everybody.
No matter like how young or old you are.
Might as well start talking about
right,
it. But
even if it's natural, even if you're 100 years old, you go in your sleep, you don't even know that you're dead. You have great grandchildren or great grandchildren. It's gonna happen to you.
Right.
It is. Mm-hmm. I mean, and there are some, events that are easier than that, depending on, how it happens, of course. But we should talk about it. Like, we talk about everything.
Everyone should talk about it more. Everyone should. In some way, I think it's culture here in America specifically, because there's some cultures around the world that celebrate death in a certain way to where it's not...
Your culture?
Mexican?
Yeah.
To where it's not, scary.
Yeah.
It's embraced and it's celebrated, and it's more of a celebration than it is something to fear.
Yeah.
It's not the grim, like, standing in a black, suit and tie and just, like, not smiling type of thing. It's a party. It's color. It's life. It's music. It's celebration.
Yeah.
Which is probably how it should be, to be honest.
Yeah.
But to kind of go back, I know my first experience with death. I mean, I've had death all throughout my life. Mostly
just about every stage.
Yeah, every stage of my life, I've had death somewhere. A lot of family member stuff, but other stuff too. I think the youngest that like impacted me the most was when my uncle died. My mom's brother, obviously, my uncle. He was an alcoholic, and the way they used to tell me it, because I was little, they said that he fell off overpass bridge here in this city that we're in now. But as I got older and now I think about it, I was like, the question really was like, oh, he fell, but like, did he fall or did he jump?
Right.
So, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
like really realizing that as I got older. And then having to deal with that. He was like the kid's favorite uncle. You know what I mean? He was a good uncle for the little ones. Everyone like my age or a little older.
Yeah.
And dealing with that is strange. With the death like that is weird, and being so young is weird. I was like in elementary school still, I think. And that was weird. It was I don't really know how to describe it, because I don't know if I fully understood it at all. Because how can you at a certain age? How can you? You know what I mean? people struggle with understanding it when they're full-grown adults. How do you understand it when you're a kid? You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But certain things helped me understand it. You know, we got to see, you know, the casket in his body and stuff like that, and him laying there. It was always weird though, because it's like, oh, you see him, but you're like, this is a body. Like you
this
said,
is still strange.
yeah, like you said, like you see your grandpa, it's like, oh, this is just.
And depending on how too, because like with my friend, her name was Champagne, which is kind of a weird name. I know, but she was a cool person. You know, of course they had to do a lot of cosmetic things to her, and for the most part, and again, like, not to be disrespectful of the dead, she kind of didn't look like herself.
Right.
You know, she's in a car accident, pretty bad car accident. But so even depending on that stuff too, like,
yeah,
it can be weird. Yeah. It can be weird to see their clothes and see their, you know.
And well, like for me, like, you know, like you said, like you described for your grandpa, like it looked like him. Yeah. You know, but that's not him. Like, it's just the body. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's the shell.
Yeah, they hadn't done anything, because my grandpa didn't have a open casket funeral.
Right.
We had him cremated before and we called it a celebration of life, which also, again, continued to help the mourning process. Now, I do regret a little bit, you know, because I was, you know, I was much, much older. You know, I wasn't a child when this happened. I do kind of regret not having that at my grandpa's celebration of life, because I felt like that would have continued to help the process. But yeah, I mean, I got to see it. You know, he was in a hospital gown. You know, he looked like sleeping. He looked peaceful. You know, they hadn't done anything to him because they were just going to take him to be cremated. So, yeah. And I think it helped that he looked as natural as possible.
Right. But with that, like I was saying, you know, it was weird to process as a kid. And yeah, I think I've talked about it before. You know, I was a really nervous kid, afraid of a lot of things. And with that, I was always afraid to die as a kid. I always thought I was going to die.
You used to talk about, like, the lightning.
Yeah, I thought I'd get struck by lightning. I thought I'd die in a fire. I thought I'd spontaneously combust. I thought I'd have a heart attack even though I was like 8. Like, I thought I was always afraid to die, and I'd always pray to not die. And that's fucking insane. And there was a point along with all that stuff where I was like, fuck this, you know what I mean? Once I got older, I was like, I don't care if I die, because I don't want to be afraid of everything anymore, and I'm tired of listening to all these things. And so there was a point where it was just apathy. Like, I can fucking die today. I don't care. You know what I mean? Which isn't a very healthy way to look at it either. No. You know what I mean? We all shouldn't necessarily. We shouldn't care if we die. We shouldn't. But there's things we should care about in death. You know what I mean? And so it was a weird combination of things. And I felt it early on as a child. And
Do you remember kind of how your family dealt with it?
You know, I don't.
Like how your mom was, because your mom, she's not a crier.
Well, that's,
you know, she's not.
Let me
really
answer
emotional.
your question. You ask me a question and then you start answering your own question. Let me answer your question.
Well, I mean, I've known your mom for like 10 years now, so I feel like I can.
But let me give you a first-person account, because I was there.
You were there.
This may be weird, but I might know a little more. I don't really remember how they dealt with it, because in a lot of ways they didn't. You know what I mean? Maybe they did behind closed doors. I was little. Maybe they didn't want the kids to see certain things. Yeah. But yes, my mom and her sisters, them being Hispanic and Mexican, you know, them being immigrants, it's that whole like immigrant mentality, like Joey Diaz says, like you don't show emotion. Yeah. You don't. You know what I mean? So a lot of the time, it's during my uncle's death, my grandmother's death, my grandfather's death, there was no serious sadness or crying or anything like that. It was all kept behind.
For some of them. Well, at least when your uncle passed away last year, it was February, wasn't it? Some of your aunts
but that
were
was
crying.
last year.
That's true. They've come a long way. They've come a long way since.
Which is what you asked. Every time when I was a child, that was not the case. Yeah. They only feel comfortable with it now probably because everyone's older. There
Right.
aren't really kids in the family anymore.
No,
like,
there's
really.
there's a couple.
And all the
but
kids that they looked out for then are all grown up now, so they can show
Right.
that emotion more.
Yeah.
But back then, like, there's no emotion. You know, it's kept behind. You know, and
Yeah.
then it's, I guess, bottled up, or it's expressed out some other way, or when other people can't see.
Yeah.
But that was the case. So no, I don't really remember how they reacted to it because they almost didn't,
Yeah.
to be honest. Which is not healthy either for a child to see, because it was weird. Like, when we're talking about it now, I stop and look at it now. It was weird to know this is a thing. My uncle is dead, and to see no one having emotion about it,
Yeah.
no one discussing it, no one, nothing.
Yeah.
And that's really confusing as a kid too, because it turns death into a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
It's like turning off a light. You know what I mean? It's replacing a light bulb. Oh, this is out. Go get the other one. It's routine. It's mechanical. It happens, and that's it. And that was terrible.
That's not good for a child to see. Now, you have to have a balance of to not freak them out so bad,
Yeah.
but also in a weird way too to show a healthy amount of emotion.
Yeah.
My mom, she of course she cried a lot, but when I was a kid, when other relatives died that I had no idea who they were, or even someone I did know, but it was only because of my mom or something. She showed way too much emotion with it, which also kind of freaked me out.
Too much emotion can also be traumatizing.
Yeah.
There has to be a good balance between it all.
Because for me, I never freaked the kids out, and I cry. I cried when my grandpa passed away, but it was a few times, but I tried to talk to the kids like I might have talked to myself or something when I was a kid.
Right.
And just be kind
Sometimes
to them. Tell them that you can be sad,
that's the best
you can
thing.
cry, you you can do this, or we're just talking about grandpa, or we're and there has to be a balance when you're dealing with death and talking to your children.
I feel like that's really the best way to handle it. Is like, how would I wanted to have spoken to when I was a kid?
Yeah.
And that's how you should handle it. It's no secret. Death is around us. It happens all the fucking time. And I think so many times we can be so worried about what happens after that we forget to live. You know what I mean? We're so focused on what happens when I die, how am I going to die, what happens after I die, that we forget a million important things when we're alive,
Yeah.
And I feel like in the end of it, that's, with all of this, that's what people should do, is live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what advice would you give someone who's afraid of death?
Oh my God. I would say, I'd say two things, and you already touched on one just a second ago, but live. Do the things that you want to do. Go see that movie. Call your parents. If you have a good relationship with your parents and you want to call them, or you haven't heard from them in a while,
don't call them. If they're going to make you feel like shit, don't call them.
Right, but call your mom, call your dad, call your brother,
Or if they're all shitty, call your friends.
Right.
There's someone you can talk to.
Right.
And that's what
and
you
just
should
say,
do.
hey, what's up, man? Thinking about you.
Right.
Buy that video game. And I'm not saying go on a shopping spree every time someone dies, or
don't
just enjoy your life.
Be irresponsible.
Yeah.
But enjoy life.
Enjoy life. Go see the ocean if you want to see the ocean in your life. Get a dog. Because that's a whole nother level of heartbreak that we're not ready for.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Get a pet. Do stuff that you want to do that, who knows, in 30 years you might not be able to, or tomorrow you might not be able to. That would be my first bit of advice, because you never know. You don't know. And my second, I guess, would be don't hold grudges and don't have regrets about people being in and out of your life. I think that's one thing for me, that whether it's, like we dealt with the Cameron incident, we dealt with Kenneth, I lost another friend,
Mm-hmm.
Is I don't want to hold these things because we don't know if tomorrow they're not going to be there.
Right. Or if you're going to be here.
Or if I'm going to be here.
You want to die angry?
Yeah.
That's a recipe for a ghost.
Oh my
Nobody
God.
wants that.
But, okay, I mean, the office aside, no, it's true. For me, that's how it's always been. And I always think about it, especially when stuff like this happens. And I think that's like one of the first things people think about is, I mean, how terrible would I feel? How terrible would anyone else feel if we're still holding a grudge against each other? If we had just had a fight, and then something tragic happens, because as the whole theme of this thing is that it could very easily, well, not easily, and I don't want to die, but it could end tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I would feel shitty here thinking that, if something happens to Kenneth, even if we haven't spoken in 7 months, and the last time we did speak, we were fighting with each other.
Mm-hmm. You never want your last thought to be about someone, a negative thought.
No.
And it's weird. And so it's like you can forgive. You don't have to necessarily allow it, but you can forgive.
Yeah.
Meaning that, like, you can set those boundaries. So this doesn't happen again. You're not in my life anymore, type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, because that wasn't good for me. But I'm not mad at you. Because, you don't want your last thought for someone to be a bad one.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be my second, is first of all, live your life.
Mm-hmm.
Do stuff that you want to do. Do cool stuff. Do good stuff for other people. Some things that you've always wanted to do, but you haven't. And then, don't hold grudges and don't have regrets.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, obviously, this shit can just end. Obviously. Like, you can be at the pinnacle of life. Like, the top of whatever your, profession is. In this case, it was, like, sports. You can be, like, rich. You can be talented. You can be all these things that people strive to be or want to be or see as, like, the highest point. You can be at the highest point of your life and die. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it can just be over. So there's a lot of things that I think we waste our time on that in the end won't serve us.
Yeah. And
a lot of what should be invested in this time we have is things that matter.
Yeah. Friendships,
relationships, family, love, care, stuff like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't matter. And once it's over, and it can be over tomorrow. You know what I mean? You can slip in the fucking shower. You know what I mean? Oh, God. Like, you can. You know what I mean? Like that
Don't
happens.
bring that up, because our last episode was injuries. And accidents. But, by the way, the last
episodes and this episode are going to come together. So, next episode, it's going to be just one of us. And we're going to be like,
well, no.
Funny thing that happened.
So I wanted to add in here that the night before that podcast went out, I cut the shit out of my fingers chopping onions.
Yeah, you fucked yourself up.
Like, pretty bad. So, like, it wouldn't stop bleeding, and I was pretty sure that I had cut the nail too. Like, I just sliced the fuck out of it.
So last episode addendum, there was a new injury.
Yeah, there was a new injury, and it's still healing.
Surprise, surprise! It was Rachel.
Yep.
It was Rabbit.
Whatever.
Surprise, surprise, it was Rabbit. And
I almost chopped the tip of my finger off.
Yep.
Chopping onions.
So, just a little side note.
Yeah.
But my point is obviously it can end and it can be quick and it can be in the most bullshit way. You know what I mean?
Right. In the most tragic way or not even tragic. It just happens.
It just happens.
Accidents happen.
And it happens every day to people who aren't famous. You know what I mean? So, my advice would be along the same lines, invest in things that matter. Say those things you need to. Tell people you love them and mean it. Be sincere and have some integrity. Because nothing else is really going to matter other than that. Honesty, integrity is really what's going to drive everything else. Because things won't matter. Stuff, money, you can't take it with you. So who fucking cares? That shit doesn't matter. Things that make you happy are yourself, self-respect, self-love, and that all that stuff for other people. Love everyone else. Say it, mean it. Hug those people, kiss those people. Take those chances. Make it happen. And do your best, because you want to end knowing that in the end of it, you did your best.
Yeah.
And you were the best person you could have been in that moment, whenever it ends.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. If you have too much, give it away. If you have too little, get some more. But always remember to share it.
Yeah.
And just enjoy it also. Enjoy not only the big triumphs, but the little things too. Because it's really those things that get you through a day, Like what the rain smells like, and what the moon looks like next to the stars, and all those wonderful things that just matter. Enjoy that shit too. That would be my advice, because nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah. Nothing.
And your life is not guaranteed either.
No.
And you can be at the pinnacle of your life, and it is still not guaranteed.
Yeah. I think it's kind of crazy that at the beginning of the year, like our first podcast to come out, like of 2020, we were talking about, which one of our friends or family members going to die next, or which one out of the group. And then I was like, oh my God, what celebrities are going to die this year?
Well, there it goes.
And okay, that's messed up. But I have a third piece of advice that I was just thinking of. And, about the whole, don't dwell on it too much. No. But there is nothing wrong that once you do reach a certain age, maybe 30, however old you feel like, you can, if you're capable, start making those plans.
Acknowledge death.
Acknowledge death. It. Make the plans. What do you want, whether it's out of religious beliefs or just, make a list of things that you want happen. If you have, valuables, who do they go to? Start making those arrangements now. Again, if you're also capable of it, get life insurance.
Yeah.
My grandpa left us
Make some sort of plan.
Make some sort of plans and arrangements. While you're in sound mind to do so, because, like I said, my grandpa left us with nothing.
Yeah.
And we weren't able to do what he wanted us to do, which is also another, thing that I'm still, processing and still dealing with, because we never got to go through with his wishes. Don't leave your family with nothing, because if it does happen suddenly, if you don't have a plan for it, your family members and loved ones are going to be really, really lost.
So many times.
It's going to be that much more of a process and struggle for them.
Right.
If you don't have that kind of stuff.
So many times we're left in the wake of someone else's death, and so many times families are left to deal with it, and that person who's dead doesn't have to. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you want things to go a certain way when you die, you should make plans for it. And if you don't, you should still have something set aside to help with it. You know what I mean? If you don't care, buried, burned, who gives a shit? You just care enough to leave something behind. I would say, at a certain age, you need to start acknowledging death. This happens, this is going to happen. Start being comfortable with it, talk about it, whatever you need to do. Know that it's a thing. Death is walking right beside you just as much as life is. And then from there, at a certain age, start actually preparing for yourself to die.
Your parents are still relatively, they're still young. They're healthy. They walk every day. They play Pokemon Go. Your mom's always trying to get your dad to eat healthier. Your dad is always trying to. Yeah. But they have even already, and I think they're getting close to finishing their plans. Yeah. And their life insurance plans, their retirement, inheritance. Apparently we're going to get something when we're I don't know how old we're going to be.
Well, it depends on what they...
Maybe sooner. No.
Wow.
But... No, but they've already started making those arrangements, and even to their funerals. What they want to happen after they die or when they die. They've already started playing that stuff. In fact, I think... the little bit that we hear off and on as the years go by, they've almost finished it. They're almost complete with it.
Which is good. And that's what everyone
we don't
should
have
do.
to worry about that.
No.
And you know, same with your grandma. Now your grandma's getting old, and we never know.
I mean, as I've talked about before, with the at this point the late stages of, you know, dementia, it's degenerative.
It could still be a few more years. It could, you know, unfortunately though, it could be tomorrow. It could be in a week. But even your grandma, your parents took her and started helping her get her arrangements made, so we don't have to, or they don't have to. Your mom or your dad, they don't have to when it happens.
Yeah.
And we can, you know, celebrate her life, literally. We don't have to mourn or worry or struggle. So I think that'd be my last thing, is just, you know, if you're able to, because life insurance isn't cheap.
No.
You know, and depending on, you know, stuff that you have going on, it can be more expensive.
Yeah.
The older you get too, it can be expensive.
Right.
You know, so, but if you have the means to, try to work out something like that. Try to work out a plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you want happen, what, you know, what arrangements you want made. You got children, think about them. You know, all of that stuff now.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice. Everyone should
just take take the little bit of time to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, don't dwell on it. Don't make it your life's work to
die. Your life's work is to die.
But I mean, because here's the thing: is dying is expensive.
It can be. I mean, it's pretty cheap to the person who's dying.
Well, because they're not here anymore. But when we were planning, now, like I said, my family was really small, so it didn't even take up half of the table that we were, you know, when we were in the funeral home's room. You know, yeah, I mean, it's expensive, and we were looking at the list, and, like, they charge for everything.
Yeah.
Like, every single thing.
It's kind of... It makes sense, but it's also kind of disgusting how much a business is to die. How much death is a business. And how much they charge for... It's like a hospital when they charge for, like, toilet paper. You know what I mean?
And a leave.
Yeah, and you're like... It's along those lines, the things that they charge for as far as death and preparing for death.
Yeah.
It's
So it's like, it's expensive technically for the family, for you to die. So just be a little bit prepared.
Be prepared for that. Think about it.
So what do you want to happen to you after you die?
Well, it depends on when I die. If I die now, there's not much I can do because I don't have any money.
Yeah.
We're really I'm giving you permission to, like, sell whatever you need to, like my PlayStation or whatever.
I might have to sell your PlayStation.
You know what I mean? Whatever you need to pay for anything, I'm fine with that. You know, I have like $20. You can have that. You know, whatever it is. It depends on when I die. Unfortunately, I think if I died between now and, you know, before, if I died young now, it would be most likely my parents would be the ones paying for everything, which is terrible to think about.
They would have to.
I don't want that. So it depends on when I die. If I died now, I don't really have any control over what happens as far as paying for things go.
Yeah.
You know, I am not prepared.
Yeah, it would be hard if either one of us died now.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. But what I would want to happen to myself, cremate me. I don't want to be buried.
Yeah, I don't want to be buried either.
It's weird for me, and it's like, I don't know. I just don't want to be buried. Cremate me. You know.
Yeah.
And then let me transcend properly.
Do you want your ashes scattered, or do you want, like, me or whatever to keep them? Do you want to be made into something?
No, just scatter them. Wait, be made into something? What do you mean?
Well, because, you know, nowadays...
Like bake me in cookies or something?
No.
Roll me in a joint and smoke it?
Oh, God. That's terrible. No. Ugh. You grossed me out. You legitly grossed me out.
Good.
The podcast.
You're welcome.
Gross. No. But nowadays, like,
this gross out has been brought to you by Last Word Podcast, the podcast Apple didn't want you to hear.
We're not done yet.
No, the gross out. It was a sponsored gross out.
Anyway, no, because nowadays they have all these things where you can get, like, a little vial and you can put ashes.
I think that's weird. Like,
you can get your ashes made into a piece of jewelry.
Okay, no, I don't want that.
Or they have these new, like, where they can put your body in a tree.
No, I don't want that.
No, we gotta go over all of this. We
telling
need time.
you.
No, we need
No,
minutes on
I
this
don't
podcast.
want that.
But like
We
can
don't.
put
We're
your
almost
body,
at an hour, and,
okay.
and that's plenty of time to talk about
okay,
death.
But they can put
we
your
don't want to
body
overdo death.
in a tree and use it as like compost.
Okay, we don't want to overdo death. Okay, I don't want to be made into anything. Let me go. All right.
No, never.
Let me go. Like spread me, and let me go. I don't care. Just.
Where do you want your ashes scattered?
I have no particular place in mind right now because I haven't thought about it. I have not thought about where I want my ashes scattered at age 30. Okay, I don't know.
I've been thinking about this.
Take me to all my favorite places. Take me to the lake in Wisconsin. Okay, take me to the ocean. Take me to a mountain somewhere here and throw me out. You know what I mean? That's what you do, and then I'm done, and I'm spread everywhere I want to go, and that's where I am.
Cool.
And technically that's not where I am anyway because I don't know where I'll be. But that's where my remains are. And that's where I want. Okay?
Yeah. I want to be salt and burned, like in Supernatural.
Okay, yeah.
Like a Viking thing.
Right. Uh-huh.
That's it.
Okay.
No.
That's easy. I can do that. I can make that happen.
Yeah, what do they call it? A hunter's funeral?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what you want?
No, I want kind of the same thing too. I want to be cremated because I think my grandma she was really worked up about the whole cremation thing.
Yeah.
And when I was trying to explain it to her, and even when I was younger trying to tell them that I wanted to be cremated, she was all up in arms about it. She was really upset about it. But I do think it's weird that we put our dead and our loved ones and our vessels in the ground in these wooden boxes. And
yeah, especially now where like we pump them full of like chemicals and stuff like that. It's very strange to me.
Well, because then most of them, or not most, but a lot of them stay preserved.
Yeah,
almost that whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember watching a documentary that one time that they had to is it called excommunicate?
Excavate?
No, excavate. Sorry. The body, and like she was still preserved for the most part.
Yeah.
Like she was still who she was, and
it's weird.
It's creepy. So, yeah, I want to be cremated. I don't want to be buried in the ground. As for my ashes after, I think I want to be scattered in the ocean. I think.
Just the ocean.
I think, and I'm not sure. And if my kids wanted to, or our children, or whoever is in charge of that stuff after we go, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind too if they put my ashes in flowers or something and I grew into the flower. Yeah. Because then
I wouldn't mind being like spread into like a tree or a plant or something.
That's what I was trying to talk about.
No, but I don't want to like be purposefully buried to make a tree. Does that make sense? Like I don't want to become a tree. Just put me a tree that's already grown, flowers that are already grown, and just spread me around. You know what I mean?
Right, okay. Well, yeah, and, you know, I wouldn't mind if my kids did something like that, or, you know, if they wanted to, you know, make jewelry or something out of my ashes, something like that. But I definitely don't want to be buried, and I don't even know if I want a funeral, to be completely honest. Because, yeah, even before that, like, they have to do something with you, too, before you're shown for open casket or a viewing or whatever.
You don't have to do that.
But you need to be preserved somehow, so I don't even know if I want a funeral.
Right.
Just because, like,
just fucking
I want a party. Is it weird that I will just want my family to have a party?
No, that's
But
cool.
You know, it's kind of funny though. Is that's how our wedding was too.
Yeah.
We almost didn't want to like get married in front of all of our friends. We just wanted to get to the celebration of it all.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how I would kind of want my funeral too. It's just like, no casket thing, nothing like that. Let's just get right to the celebration of it.
So let's do this. Let's move on from this to close this out because I really don't want to spend too much time on death. It's gross.
It's important.
To close this out, if you were to die tomorrow,
oh my God,
what can you say right now? What is your goodbye? What do you want people to know about you, about your life? What would you say? I'm going to give you the mic. I'm going to turn it towards you. I want you to say your goodbye.
I just had an existential crisis while you were saying that.
You
That's like, what I want to leave the people with.
Okay.
No, seriously.
What?
No, I don't know. Like, that's such a weird way to put it, but no, I don't know. I just, hi, goodbye.
Okay, so you're not dying tomorrow then. It's 80 years from now and you're dead, and people are listening back to old podcasts, stuff like that, and they come across this. What do you want them to hear?
I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't know. Like, I'm kind of on the spot here. You literally turned the mic
I
to me.
just thought of this.
But
let's do this.
I don't know. I'd probably, just say something like, I had a full and crazy life. I have all these weird children and a weird husband who's not all there. I'm ready. Take me. Whoever you are. And I'd probably just look towards the ceiling or sky or wherever I'm dying outside, apparently. And then, just... So I'd probably go silent and everyone would be like, oh no, she's gone. And then, like, whew, okay, all right, where's my sandwich? That's probably what I would do.
All right.
To be completely honest with you, because I'm not that, I'm not that person.
So those are the words you're leaving with.
Yeah.
Where's my sandwich?
Yeah, or, where's my... What do old people drink when they can't... Or eat when they can't eat anymore?
I don't know.
Ensure?
Okay.
Yeah, because
Cool.
that would be me.
I think your attempt at doing that was the answer.
Yeah.
I don't think it was in what you said. I think it was in the attempt of trying to say something.
Yeah.
So that fits.
It works. What about you?
All right. Well, let me turn the mic here. I die tomorrow. I want people to know, hi, this is Joel. If you're listening to this, I'm dead. No, I want everyone to know that I'm happy. That I'm happy. And that I loved as much as I could. As freely as I could. As open and as honest as I could. And that these last years especially have been the best ones. And hopefully I get more. But if I don't, I'm happy. That's all you need to know.
Also, someone please go on the computer and delete that folder.
Please delete my history. Please delete my internet history as well as my Google searches on my phone specifically. Thank you.
Yes, I also have a box under the bed that needs to be burned.
Under the bed?
Mm-hmm. No.
I thought it was on the side of the bed.
No, oh my god. Oh, okay.
Boom.
All right, we're signing off. We're done.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Thank you for being here. I don't have to say it, but I'm going to always say it. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for going with us through this. And
please don't die on us.
Please don't die on us, but please live the life you need to be happy. Be honest. Have that integrity. Do your best. We're all getting where we need to go, so enjoy it. Say what you need to say. Love who you need to love. I love you very much. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. We'll see you, hopefully, next time.
Later.